Okay, how did 9/11 affect your life?
Affect my life immediately.
And like, where were you during it?
Well, I was at home and I saw this little airplane crash into this building. We didn't know that it was a big airplane, so I didn't think much of it. And then I got ready for work and was driving to work, and I was listening to the radio, and I heard, wow, the other tower got hit by an airplane. And then I found out that it was not just a little airplane. It was a jet airplane. And then as I was driving to work, I was listening to this on the radio because we didn't have phones. We couldn't look at things on our phones. And then I could hear one of the towers crashing on my way to work. And I'm like thinking, man, I'm going to the hospital. I'm in Los Angeles. Do I even want to go to work today? I mean, I had to go to work, so I went to work.
Did it make you scared?
Yeah, it made me scared. It did. Yeah, I was scared that something would happen at my place of employment at the hospital. Yeah, I did think something could happen. Yeah.
Okay.
It did make me scared.
Second question. What did you and your family think about communism?
Communism is based on the idea that you share everything.
Yeah.
Right?
How do you feel about that? Or how did you?
But you share the work. I feel like people who work hard will be taken advantage of, and people who don't work hard will take advantage of other people. So I think it's a very unfair situation because you're not what you're getting is not based on your merits. What you do.
Were you fearful of the spread of communism?
I was never fearful of the spread of communism. No.
Okay.
I was fearful of being. We were fearful when I was a kid of the nuclear bombs being.
Oh, that was my next question. I was going to ask, how did nuclear threats affect you?
Yeah, we were worried about the nuclear bomb threat, but we were not afraid of communism in America because everybody was against it.
Okay.
Except for a very fringe, crazy people were for communism, and those people were not allowed to really, exist very, very well.
Yeah.
So nowadays, we have to let them exist and say what they think, but
Freedom of speech.
we weren't afraid. Well, we let them speak, but we weren't afraid of them.
Okay.
When I was a kid. Are you talking about when I was a kid?
Yeah. In your lifetime. And okay, next question. How did the invention of the internet affect your life?
Well, it affected it in so many ways.
Yes.
So many ways.
Tell me some ways.
Well, it made the acquisition of media very easy. I did not have to go to the store to buy a video or go to the record store to listen to music, or buy records.
Yeah.
And then to communicate with people, communications, you could communicate without actually seeing the person or dialing it on the telephone. So, it made things easier, but less personal.
Yeah.
So I think in the long run, it's not a good thing because it's not as personal as human face-to-face interaction.
True that.
So I think it's been good and bad.
Okay. How was the economy like in the late 80s or early 90s, and how did it affect you?
Well, I feel like it was good. I always was able to get a job if I wanted a job. And I always felt like I could pay my bills.
Okay.
I always felt like I could pay for gas. I did have a hard time having a vehicle at times. But I was young and I had to work and go to school at the same time. So I think we had the opportunity to do whatever we wanted to do.
Okay. That's good. Who was your favorite and least favorite president, and why?
Least favorite president?
And favorite.
That's a good question. Well, growing up, we always liked Ronald Reagan. He was always good, and of course Abraham Lincoln, George Washington. I mean, there's just too many to say which is your favorite. Least favorite? I mean, who do I feel like affected my life the most in a negative way is probably Barack Obama.
Okay.
And that isn't really about growing up. It's about how he affected the medical system, with certain bills and stuff while he was president,
Okay.
So I feel like probably most negatively affected me was Barack Obama.
Okay. And why was Reagan your favorite?
Well, it was during a time when everything seemed to be good, when I was a kid. So we look back with nostalgia.
Ah,
To
okay.
that. So I think the key to that is a nostalgic feeling when we believe that we had conquered the Cold War at that time. So
Yeah.
we felt a great relief about the conquering of the Cold War. And I felt like we were coming out of the economic recession at that time. So.
Okay. And last question, what was your first experience ever using a computer? How did you get it? Whatever.
The first time I remember using a computer was I went to my neighbor's house and he had an Apple, one of the first Apple machines, and I was probably 10 or 11 years old, I don't remember, but we would play a video game at his house. I think it was called Castle Wolfenstein. The first version came out in 1981, so I was 10
Wow.
years old when it came out.
That's cool.
On the Apple II home computer, so that's probably when I played it, probably when I was about 10 or 11 years old.
Cool. Okay. Nice. Thank you for this interview.
To play video games.
Video
Right?
games.
What has changed?
Gamer.
What has changed? Right.
Okay. How did 9/11 affect your life?
It was terrifying because I was scared. I was actually 9 months pregnant with my first child, and she was due in 2 weeks, and I was, scared of what kind of world that I was going to bring her into, and it was just shocking and very scary, and it's still very upsetting when I see, things from that day. It takes me back because I can remember exactly where I was and what I was doing because it was traumatizing.
Okay.
Very scary.
What did you and your family think about communism?
Communism is not good. I do not agree with communism. It's not a good way to be.
How did the invention of the internet affect your life?
It made it a lot easier because before we would have to go to the library and spend hours looking things up. And I grew up with encyclopedias in my house, which was very helpful. But the internet made it so much easier because now I don't even have to open a book. I can just turn on the internet.
Okay.
So easier to search for things because before I'd be like, if I didn't know something, sometimes, it's just so much easier. I think I've increased my knowledge because of the internet.
Okay, that's good. How was the economy in the late 80s and 90s, and how did it affect you?
I was a little girl in the late 80s and early 90s, so I really don't remember.
Okay. Do
'cause
you remember
I
your
was-
parents having it hard, or?
I do. I do remember when I went to high school, they owned a gas station, and I do remember them complaining about how much gas costs for them to supply their gas station
Okay.
and what they were making. They weren't making enough to support what they were spending on it. I do remember that barely, but I was young.
Okay. A few more questions. Who is your favorite and least favorite president, and why?
My least favorite president. Okay, let's start with my favorite. I like to start with the positive. My favorite president would be Ronald Reagan. I just like I like how conservative he was. I liked, that he was against a lot of the things that I'm against and for things that I'm for. I mean, I think he was a good president. The worst president right now, I would have to say, is Biden, for sure. I mean, we had a tragedy a couple of days ago where there was a school shooting and little kids lost their lives, 3 9-year-olds. And he gets up and the first thing he says is, "I'm Joe Biden. I'm Dr. Biden's husband. And I love chocolate chip ice cream. And I'm only here because of some ice cream." It was very embarrassing and terrible. He's really embarrassing to our country.
Okay. And what kind of like music was popular when you were young?
Like when I was a little girl, like Boy George, Cyndi Lauper, Madonna. Like when I was really little, that was really popular.
Okay. And one more question. What was your first experience using a computer?
When I was in high school, actually, and that's when I got my first computer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was in high school. And then shortly after, when I went to college, I was told about a Yahoo, and I was like, Yahoo? I was thinking of Yoo-hoo, the drink.
Oh.
And I didn't even understand. And then my professor explained that it's an email, and he explained all of that. That was the first time I had an email address.
Oh. How did 9/11 affect your life? I was living in California working as a nurse during 9/11. I was watching the news before work and saw the second plane hit the tower line on TV. I could hear the fear, disbelief, shock in the anchor's voice. Our safety in the United States was taken. The security we took for granted living in the U.S. was gone. No longer were the unfortunate events like bombings, terror attacks, something you saw happening in other countries. It was happening here. What did you and your family think about communism? Communism was oppressive control of people by their government. Taking an ideal-sounding idea of equality for all and turning it into a very limited, rationed way of life for the citizens, and power and comfort for those in control in the government. How did the invention of the internet affect your life? The internet made life so much easier. I can remember an ad for the internet about how a person could get on their computer and book an airline ticket, just like that, on their computer in their own home. And that was it, the ease and availability of having access to all this information and the ability to do things over their computer. It not only made life easier as far as ordering things, paying for things, but it gave people information so easily. How was the economy in the late 80s and 90s, and how did it affect you? I didn't really feel any impact of the economy in the 90s. My mom was a nurse whose wages didn't change. I was in college and then became a nurse myself. Who is your favorite and least favorite president and why? My favorite president during my lifetime was President Reagan. He had a kind face, he was gentle and intelligent, well-spoken Republican. My favorite president during my lifetime was President Reagan. Kind face, gentle, intelligent, well-spoken Republican who seemed to promote and work toward peace and a strong economy. My least favorite president in my lifetime is Clinton. He committed adultery while president, lied about it. He's sleazy. The standard USHC 0.5.CO aligns with my family's experiences because we talked about computer developments, the invention of internet, how the economy grew after the Cold War, and how during the Cold War, gas prices were inflated and the economy was not doing well. The standard USHC .5.CE aligned with my family's experiences because we talked about nuclear threats was terrifying and how everyone disliked communism and how terrorism such as 9/11 would permanently scar America. And standard USHC .5.P aligns with my family's experiences because we talked about how Republicans gained more power in the government. And standard USHC .5.CX aligned with my family's experiences because we talked about how America became more Republican and traditional and started disliking communism because of the Cold War. And because the economy grew after the Cold War, everyone was happy.